Hi, Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and here's another interview in my series of interviews with subscribers. Enjoy. Hello, everybody. It's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and I've got another great interview with somebody I'm sure many of you will recognize and know, and it's Martha. Martha from Martha's Creative Life.
And
That's a YouTube channel, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes as well. But I'm sure many people are familiar with you because you are, as I would call it, a presence on YouTube for sure. So I'm really thrilled that we were able to make it work, that we could do this interview. So I'm going to jump right in and ask you, what part of the world are you in?
I am in the lower part of the United States in Alabama.
In Alabama.
Yeah.
Okay. Explains your accent, my accent. I don't have one, you know.
Yes.
So let's jump right in. How long have you been quilting?
I have been quilting since like 2010, but the pandemic, when that happened, that's really when I started getting more into it. So,
So
had to find something to do with my time.
since 2010. Okay, well, that's a long time, 13 years kind of a thing. I've only been doing it for about 5, and I started just before the pandemic. And then I think for a lot of people, when the pandemic hit, a lot of people turned to quilting. I guess I heard from my local quilt store, they'd never sold so many machines in such a small space of time, really. So I guess people had to have something to do. So quilting is a good thing to do. So how did you get started then?
Well, it's 2010. That's when my aunt passed away, and my mom and dad gave me all of her fabrics that she had left over from her stash and her old Kenmore sewing machine. I don't have it anymore because it died. It had to be, yeah, sent away to somewhere else. But so I was doing like really, I didn't really do a lot of like quilting quilts and things. It was more of sewing projects and putting little things like that together. I didn't actually really start quilting until the pandemic. So, quilting more of quilting quilts,
Right.
if that makes yeah.
So you were a sewer though before you got into quilting. So did you sew clothes as well, or
No, like placemats and napkins um for Christmas for gifts and things like that.
so what was the what pushed you then into quilting? You were doing all this sewing beforehand. What suddenly appealed to you or got you into doing quilts?
YouTube.
Oh, yes, we've all been there.
I was just watching videos and I was like, hey, that looks like so much fun. I really should get back into that. Okay, I have all this free time. We really are not supposed to be going anywhere. So, all right, let's go get a machine. Oh, I can't order a machine. They're all out.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yes, I do. The shortage of sewing machines. Yes.
Mm.
And so that's really what got you going then into that. So now you mentioned your aunt. Was she a quilter or
N- No, she was very eclectic. She had like multiple college degrees and just absolutely was so intelligent. And she would do a little bit of everything. She loved to read. She loved to just sew whatever that she could get her hands on, and be
right?
creative.
So were there any quilters in your family in generations before?
Not that I'm aware of. My great grandmother, she may have, but I don't have anything from that. My grandmother on my mom's side, she made all my mom's clothes when she was a teenager.
Right.
So he was
So
very, you
yeah.
know,
So
worked that
really you're the first generation in your family then to be a quilter.
that I know of.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people, I think that I have a theory anyways. A lot of people tell me that their mother didn't quilt or anybody in the generation just before them, but 2 generations back, there were quilters. And I think that quilting skips a generation because I hear a lot of these people say, yeah, well, they tried to get their kids into quilting, but their kids have no interest whatsoever in it. And who knows, maybe their children will move into it. I don't know. It's kind of skip a generation kind of a thing, maybe. I don't know if that's true or not. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. But
But our great grandparents, it may be during that time, it wasn't for fun, it was more for functional. Hey,
true.
we our family warm. What can we make? You know,
And fabric was more like expensive and scarce. So they would
right.
do things out of clothing, old clothing, like they'd reuse. They were recycling, reusing before it was a fashionable thing to do. It was a necessity, really, for
Yeah.
survival in many cases. So
Hmm.
true. And they didn't have a lot of time on their hands either to, they needed a quilt. We need to keep warm. Winter's coming. Let's get this thing made. It wasn't, doing these designer quilts that we make today and art quilts and all the other, but so
Yeah.
that could be, the reason why we don't see, a lot of quilting maybe in the generation just before us. um
Hmm.
and now we do have a lot more leisure time, although we don't feel that we do, but I think we do in comparison to our, grandparents, our great grandparents, and that kind of thing. We're not really, living off the land and, you know, all that kind of thing. So, do you have a favorite creation? Now, that is a difficult question because we love all of our creations, probably,
Yes. Yeah.
but do you have something that stands out for one reason or another?
Well, like you just said, yes, there's a couple of them. The very first quilt that I made was a t-shirt quilt. It's not mine. It was gifted to a girlfriend of mine because we actually, I grew up in Florida. Florida is my home state. But my husband and I, we moved up to Alabama, and this June will be 2 years.
Hmm.
Um, so originally from Florida. So that's where the quilt is. It's in Florida. And it was just her high school t-shirts, and she wanted to give it to her as a graduation gift. And she goes, "Would you make a t-shirt quilt?" And I'm like, "Sure." I have no idea what I'm doing, but sure. And it was a huge undertaking. So I think that will be my most favorite one because that was the first one that I made.
Yeah, you never forget your first one, kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
And I have never made, and nor do I have a desire to make a t-shirt quilt, but I know that is very, very popular. I mean, Sean,
Mhm.
on the guy who sews, right? He's working on another one right now, and he's
It's amazing.
yeah, and I can see why they're also different from making a quilt because it's tricky getting your dimensions right, cutting them. You got to back that, and I think that's one reason why I'm not interested in it. And the other reason is I don't wear t-shirts, so you know don't have any to do
I'll
this with.
you in a t-shirt in one of your videos.
No, yeah, and the other thing I was going to say too, since you come from Florida now,
Hmm?
in my mind, and I think in a lot of people's mind, we associate quilts with colder climates because of their history, of being made to keep warm. But you grew up in Florida, which, I know it can get a little cold there, but I mean, like cold, yeah, what? It drops down to like 60. Wow. Here in Canada, that would be a definitely a hot day. We're out getting a tan. Um,
No.
with that kind of thing. So are quilts done differently if you come from a warmer state? Like, for example, I have heard that people in some cases don't bother with batting in them because they don't need it for warmth.
I heard that recently too. I have no idea. All the quilts that I've ever seen, they have the quilt top, they have the batting, and they have the backing. Just like, but I'm assuming that is that what you do up in Canada? Is
Yeah,
that the same?
oh yeah, we put batting up through the whole 9 yards. Well, I've
Yeah.
also heard that the definition of a quilt is it has to be 3 layers, your batting and your fabric on either side of it. And I would also
Mhm.
think for quilting it would be very weird if you didn't have batting of some sort in the center of it, because you're not going to get the texture in the whole
Yeah.
bit with it.
How crunchy after you wash it.
Yeah. Now I know there is some batting you can buy that is supposedly a little more lightweight if you don't want to make a quilt that is heavier and warmer.
Mhm.
I've never ever explored those possibilities because, well, why? Why would I?
Right.
Where I live,
Why?
the thing. But I just wondered out of curiosity because you come from that area,
Mhm.
very different from how we might approach quilts in a colder climate. Although quilting is quilting, I guess. So maybe it doesn't really matter. So what type of quilter would you label yourself as if you had to give a label? This is another difficult question. Are you more traditional, more modern, freeform? How would you describe yourself?
Well, recently Donna interviewed me, and she asked me that question, and I'm like, oh, I'm traditional. I love traditional quilts. And then uh, when I was preparing for our interview, I'm like, that was one of your questions, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not. I am a traditional, but yet you put in there, are you a free form? And that the T-shirt quilt did not have a pattern. All the quilt tops that I have that I need to quilt,
Right.
they're from patterns. I just took fabric and started putting it together. So maybe I'm a traditional free form.
Yes, we can be hybrids, you know. I like to refer to myself as eclectic, whatever grabs my attention at the time, kind of a thing I go with. But talking about the free form, or I think now that's the term that I was using when I wrote those questions. But now I'm seeing a lot of YouTube videos about improv quilting. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that's more kind of maybe free form because you're really it's not scrappy in the sense that, you know, scrappy, you've got leftovers, your things, you're sewing them all together, you know, and actually those are kind of one of my favorite types of quilts to do with that, because you never know what you're going to get. But now this
Yeah.
improv one where it's actually sort of planned, but sort of not. It's sort of like an abstract painting, I
Right.
guess. And I think that's maybe closer to, I should change the term to more to improv from free form. But do you like to experiment with your quilting?
I do. And I can't show you the quilt because it's for a baby shower next month for a
Okay.
friend and a little girl. So just in case she sees this
Yes.
video, I don't want to spoil the gift for her.
Right.
But I found a pattern on Fat Quarter Shop, and it was a free one, but it called for layer cake and called for one. You could use more if you wanted to make it bigger. But I realized that I didn't want to make the blocks the 10-inch blocks. So I cut them down, trying to do the quick math real quick. You might can figure it out since you were a teacher.
Not a math teacher.
Yeah, English teacher.
That's
I,
right.
and so I cut 2.5-inch strips off of the side and the top. So it made it a smaller, it made it a smaller block, and it turned out perfect. But I took what was a pattern and did an improv, and it turned out perfect. I was able to use the 2.5 inch pieces um, on another baby quilt, and then I was able to the binding from that. So
Okay.
I was able to all the fabric, which just made me so happy.
Yeah,
So I did.
because there you go, right? You get your money's worth out of
Yeah,
it. Yeah, that's
yeah.
true. And you know, I think a lot of people when they get into quilting are really afraid to deviate from a pattern. They stick to
Mhm.
it like glue, which okay, when you're first learning, it's probably a good idea to do that. But you know, you can make it your own. You don't
Right.
have to follow that. In my case, it's not because I did it on purpose, it's because I made a mistake. So
I
that's
do that.
I make a lot of mistakes.
I think you call it customization.
Yes, customization. Yeah. Or as Bob Ross would say, oh, that's a happy little oops. Yeah, some aren't that happy, but I get over it. So are you, I'm assuming you're sitting in your work area, your sewing area.
Yes.
So can you describe it? Is it large, small, an extra room? How's it
Mhm.
laid out?
So it's a bedroom, but it's a long bedroom. So it's nice in width, but length, it's very long. So my daughter, she is in college. She is a senior this year. So she'll be graduating in the summer, but so she's not here 24/7 because she's actually away at college. So her bed and her part of the room is on the other side. And then behind me is my part. So the only time I don't get to use it is when she's home, but that's okay because we're spending time together doing
Right.
something.
And I
So
noticed you have a lot of project boxes behind you. So I'm assuming, are you using those just for fabric storage or are you actually putting kits together that you want to work on?
Well, part of it, the ones that you see here, these two here have my quilting things in them, but behind this quilt here, this was one of the ones that I love so much that thought I'd put in the video so you
Yeah.
could see it. Behind that is more of those. I used to scrapbook.
Uh,
I haven't touched the scrapbook in years, but I used to do that all the time. So
I
my scrapbook stuff is in the one behind it, but these have like my threads, extra layer cakes, jelly rolls, just more storage for everything right now.
right.
I have project boxes here, these here. Those have my Piazza from Cotton Cuts,
Oh, okay.
one for Village Green also. Those
So
are perfect.
do you have a huge stash of fabric?
No, I think I have a good size of fabric. I don't really need to buy a whole lot more right now. My sister-in-law and I have decided to try to do a no by 2023. We're
Oh,
doing good, but we made a stipulation if you for backing
right.
or to finish off a quilt, it's okay. We're trying to use our stash, and
Yeah, I try to do that too. But
mhm.
I'm going through my stash, and there's always one fabric for the pattern I'm making that I don't have in my stash. So I go down to my quilt store, I buy that fabric, but then, oh, I like that one, and I like that one. And I love the question that other people in the quilt store will say to me, oh, that's pretty fabric. What are you going to do with it? And I look at them and go, I have no idea. It's pretty. That's why I buy it. And they give you this strange look, like you have to have a method, or you have to have some reason why you're buying that fabric. No, it's
No,
pretty. I like it, kind of a thing. If I really like it, if I like it, I'll buy 2 meters. If I really like it, I'll buy three. So, because you may not have it next week. And that does happen.
it
So
does.
in your sewing room, so do you have
Mm,
like, do you have stations like, this is my sewing station, this is my pressing station, this is my cutting station? Are you able to do that in the size of the room that you have? Or
yes, my sewing table, which is what we're using right now, this has my sewing machine on it, and it's long enough or wide enough that I can, have like a quilt off to the left. So when I'm sewing it, I have more room. And then behind up here, that's a 12, no, it's a 6 foot table.
hmm,
My husband for me, he got it for me from Home Depot, and I use that for my cutting. So I have to get up if I want to go cut. And then my iron, I just use an ironing board for right now. I have a big, a regular size iron. I'd like to get one of the small so that
yeah,
I can use.
beside you, right beside you, kind of a thing. Yeah, with it. But I like the fact that you've got the extra space on the left hand side of your sewing table, because
Mhm,
like what I was saying before we started recording today, that I'm binding a quilt, and what I don't have enough space, and it's too heavy. So I do set up my ironing board. It works out just exactly to the same height as my extended table. But it's
mhm.
still, it's not ideal. I wish I had the space to like go out about 4 feet away to the left. That would be
Nice.
ideal. Not
Yes.
going to work for my situation, unfortunately, in that. But anyways, we adapt. We adapt to all of this. And I was going
Yes.
to say about your project boxes and things like that. And you said you were a scrapbooker before. Yeah, me too. So,
Right.
oh yeah, for years I was a paper crafter. In fact, I bought my first sewing machine only because I saw this cheap old brother machine at Costco, and I was thinking for my paper crafting. I had no desire to sew. And then suddenly, well, that's a story for another day, and it's not about me, it's about you. So yeah, I don't do any of the paper crafts anymore. I got rid of all my stuff. I gave it
Yeah.
away to friends of mine that they loved it, thought it was Christmas, when I was cleaning out my craft room to make it into my sewing room and revamp the whole thing. And yeah, it was fun, but I like quilting now. I did that. Moving on to quilting. I just hope that there isn't something else on the horizon and go, oh, no more quilting. We're going to do that next. Because I like quilting too much for that.
I
So, yeah. So, what's your favorite tool? Well, first of all, before I ask you that, what do you have for sewing machine or machines? Because I'll bet you have
I
one.
okay. A brother sewing machine. That was one of the ones that was very hard to find
Hmm,
when the pandemic started because the Kenmore that I had pretty much bit the dust. So I didn't have a sewing machine. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? So I researched it and watched videos and to see what would be a good one. So I just got a basic brother sewing machine. I think I got it from Joann's at the time because there was a local Joann's store near me.
right.
And then I started playing on that, and my husband's like, "You're really enjoying this, aren't you?" And I said, "I am." And so he took me to a store down in Florida, and we found a baby lock Verve,
Hmm,
and that I used 99% of the time.
yeah. So you're a
I
brother and a baby lock girl. With that, see, those two brands are not easy to get here in Canada. Our
really,
more, yeah, we're more, well, I'm a Janome guy. And that's only
mhm,
because I started with Janome and I had a local dealer for that. And that's why, but I do love my Janomes. And Bernina. Bernina is the other one, but I haven't drank the Kool-Aid yet for Berninas. The Bernina is a cult. Anybody who has a Bernina, I swear it's a cult. And I just have not drank the Kool-Aid yet to get into that. But yeah, so do you have so you've got two sewing machines? Is that
yeah,
all? Yeah, okay. Do you have an embroidery machine or anything like that?
well, the baby lock Verve is a
Oh,
embroidery
just
machine,
both. Okay.
but I haven't used it yet.
Oh, you need to see our video we did on Friday on So Chatty about fear of unboxing. In there. Oh, once you go down the rabbit hole of machine embroidery, you'll never come back out.
I
Believe
think I haven't done it yet.
Oh, it is so I have an embroidery machine too, and I absolutely love it. And there's so many things you can do with an embroidery machine, not just putting monograms on towels. You can do make bags, table run. I've made several quilts using my they call it an in the hoop design for doing quilts and things like that. So yeah, they're they're fun. They're a lot of fun. So
Never using it in a quilt, but that makes sense.
oh, you can. Yep. Just go
Oh,
online, you'll see all kinds of things about that. Okay, so what's your favorite tool then besides your sewing machines?
um, Jack.
Ah, yes, as Sean would call it, Jack. Yep, this theme.
Uh, yes, he is my most favorite one. I actually got him from that quarter shop recently from one of those sampler boxes, and this one is I love it because it's bigger at the end,
Yeah.
so you really can hold on to it. But I found recently this
Oh, best press. Yes.
working on a baby quilt, and I'm like, oh, I like the idea of starching stuff. It's nice because it makes it easier to sew your pieces together, and it feels like I'm making a more accurate quarter-inch seam.
Yes. I mean, I'm not a big starcher of fabric, but I
Mm.
have used Mary Ellen and I still use it, but it makes me sneeze. I don't know why, but it makes me
No,
sneeze. But there's another one that I use that I really love. It's actually a Canadian product. It's called Acorn Precision Pressing Solution, and it is wonderful. If you've got a seam that you just can't get to lay down the proper way, you give a
yeah,
little mist of this on it, it boom, that's it. It's out for the count.
it's
So
down. Yeah.
yeah, but Mary Ellen's, I mean, I started with Mary Ellen's and I still have some. I still use it on occasion as well, but I don't know why it makes me sneeze. It's
Is
weird.
it unscented?
Beg your pardon?
Is it unscented?
Yeah, it's unscented.
There's
But
something in the formula then
there
that
must
just
be because I really don't have allergies, but that I know of. But obviously, there's something in that that gets me. But anyways, it's yeah, it's nice to use those products on your fabrics because it makes them feel a little crisper. And
mhm.
yeah, and I think you do so more accurately when it's like that because you're not getting any little tiny bulges. It's all nice and flat. So yeah, and a seam ripper. People go, oh, the seam rippers, they're a dime a dozen. You get them anywhere. No, you've got to have one that feels right to you. Uh,
Yes.
and you said that one with the handle really is a nice grip for you. Yeah, those ones, no, no, yeah, but
This is my favorite.
yeah. I have one similar to that one too, and it just feels nice in your hand, and they just work so much better, I think. So yeah, it's important because you are going to use a seam ripper. Don't tell me that you've never used a seam ripper, and I'll tell you, you're not a quilter. You're lying right through your teeth. So, if you had all the money in the world, is there a piece of equipment you would invest in?
If I had all the money in the world, I would probably check out a long arm machine. I just think that they're amazing. I don't have one, obviously. I don't have room in the house to put one, so it would find a place out in the garage, uh, and I would use it out there. But I just think they're amazing. I've seen them at the my favorite local quilt shop, and it's just like, wow, how does that even work?
Yeah,
So
and they are amazing because I have one now too. But you said that you didn't really have the room for it, but then you said, well, you could put it out in the garage. Your mind is working towards this. I can see it right there because I said the same thing. We don't have room for one. We found
mhm,
we found room, and I don't regret it at all. I mean, they're an expensive toy, but they
mhm.
do amazing things. And so, how are you quilting your quilts right now? Just the old fashioned on the domestic?
On the domestic, and that's, I make straight lines. I haven't even done the free motion quilting. I haven't attempted that yet. I applaud anybody who does the free motion quilting and checks it out because I'm a little nervous to try that. So I just do straight lines, and it takes care of the task at hand.
Yeah.
And then when it's my favorite because then it's crunchy. So
Yeah.
that's all that matters to me.
Yep, yep. I like the crunchy too, with them. And yes, I admire anybody that can do free motion quilting on a domestic machine because I've tried it. I'm not good at it, and thus I have a computer on my long arm. It does it for me. So that's the other thing I like. Some people say that's cheating. I say it's 21st century way of quilting.
Well, it's not cheating. It's a just different
Yeah.
way of quilting your quilt. I mean,
Well, the answer to that is to people, well, do you have a washing machine? Why
mhm.
aren't you beating your clothes on a rock somewhere then? Is that cheating because you used a washing machine? And then they
Right.
start to think, oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
There's different ways to take care of making a quilt. And
Yeah,
whatever works best for you is the best way for you.
that's right. I mean, yeah, it would be nice to be able to do feathers, on a domestic
Mhm,
machine because that's where everybody goes, right? Everybody loves the feathers.
mhm.
But it's whatever works for you, gets the job done. And as long as you're happy with it, it doesn't matter about
Right.
what anybody else may think. No,
Sean's asked for, is it going in a quilt show? Nope.
yeah, exactly. So don't worry about it. Are there quilt police? Yes, there are, but we
Mhm.
don't listen to them. They're a bunch of bitches. So you just slap their face and go away, kind of thing. So, have you ever belonged, speaking of people and things like that, have you ever belonged to an in-person group or online or anything like a guild or anything? Design?
No.
Nothing?
Nope.
No.
I've one class where we made the design board where you take the foam board and you put the the
Your battle.
batting,
Yeah.
make a foam board. I went to a class for that, but the places that I can go to are a little bit further away from me. So I tend to just work on stuff at home and watch YouTube and watch my friends on there make their
Well,
project,
yeah.
get in from them. So it's
Yeah.
like classes really, just not in person.
Yeah, true. And I think that's the one thing that COVID brought to us, if there's any positive things about COVID, was
Mm,
the whole online quilting community has, really surfaced and
mm,
through Zooms and YouTube and Facebooks, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, really, I enjoy doing Zoom retreats or classes more so than actually going to in-person ones because I don't have to lug all my stuff with me, and spend an hour getting it all laid out in the hall and then start sewing and then another hour to get it all packed up in the car to go home. Whereas everything I need is right here at my fingertips. And so I never forget anything because it's here. So yeah, and I think a lot of people have discovered that's because of COVID, the
mhm.
benefits of that kind of thing. So talking about that, then, do you have any favorite experts or sources of information you go to frequently?
Karen Brown was one of my big ones that I love her. I think she's amazing. I started watching her and got a lot of inspiration from her, a lot of technical knowledge
Yeah.
that I had no idea, any of that. Jordan Fabrics, Fat Quarter Shop, Missouri Star. Those are my top big, companies that I watch on YouTube.
Yeah.
There were, but I like more of the smaller community of friends that we have
Yeah,
also.
I like that too because everybody has big names. I mean, everybody knows Donna Jordan, everybody knows Jenny Doan,
Mhm.
even Karen Brown as well. And Karen
Right.
Brown's my own backyard. She's just in Toronto. I'm 40
Yeah.
minutes outside of Toronto, and I have met her in person. She came when I used to belong to a guild. She came as a guest speaker once, and
Oh, wow.
I watch her all the time as well. Um, but there's so much to be offered by I don't know what you would call us, the not so well known creators, on YouTube. And people should never, especially when people are just getting started in quilting, should never poo-pah the little guys out there because they have as much expertise to share, just that they just don't have the name behind them. And that's why I do the interviews. That's
Mhm.
what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in interviewing Jenny Doan. I've had many of my subscribers say, "Oh, why don't you interview Jenny Doan or Karen Brown or something?" No, everybody knows who they are. You know, I want to bring to light the rest of us because there's a lot of us out there. And yeah, that's where I've learned a lot too, is from your videos, from Sean's videos, from Adam So's videos, and the whole gamut of us little creators, I guess we might be called, something like that. Um, yeah, with that, and I was going to say something too. Oh, now lately, Missouri Star Quilt, with Jenny Doan, that's probably one of the first ones I found and went to it, and I watched them faithfully. I haven't been watching her as regularly now, and only because I think I've got to that stage where what she's doing isn't new to me. I've done it, or I can do it. I have the confidence now. So I'm looking for things that are a little bit more out there, I guess, kind of a deal. But that's the beauty of quilting, isn't it? It really taps into our creative um mindset. So,
Mhm.
kind of a thing. But nothing wrong with what they have to offer. There's lots there that they're offering. So you grow in this, I guess.
And it's on their own quilting journey, and what you are learning from, the smaller content creators now, maybe, or where you're looking for more of a specialty, that's where you're at now.
Yeah,
It nothing to do with, Jenny Doan and Missouri Star not being a good, educational
yeah,
tool. You've kind of graduated. Okay, I'm done with that class now.
yeah.
Let's go to the next class.
Yeah,
So
go to the
like,
next level or whatever. Yeah, with it, or the new next journey kind of a thing with it. Um, so let's talk about your YouTube channel then. We've been talking about other people's YouTube channels. Let's talk about yours, Martha's Creative Life. First of all, how long have you had the channel? And well, I think I know the answer to this one, but why did you call it Martha's Creative Life?
it was July of 2022. I had been mulling around the idea for quite some time, and I was like, nah, no one's going to want to listen to me. And by the way, this morning I woke up, 250 people think highly enough of me that they want to be subscribed to my channel.
That's great.
Just
That
like,
could, I know how you feel about that. I know I've had that same feeling. It just makes you feel like what's her name on the Academy Awards? They love me. They really love me. Sally Fields. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
that just made my whole day. And it's not that I, have to watch the numbers. It's just 250 was a milestone. 100 was a milestone. So
Yeah,
I'm just enjoying that go along. But it was just something that I had been thinking about, and I'm like, nah, no one's going to want to listen to me. I have nothing to offer, but I have to remind myself that we all have something to offer in
exactly.
what, and so, and I just named it Martha's Creative Life because it's not just quilting that I like to do. I like to get in the kitchen, and I like to cook. I like to bake. I still like scrapbooking, although I don't do it much. I making cards, all that stuff. It's part of my creative life.
And I think many quilters are just not quilters. They have other interests as well. It's all part of that creative journey kind of a thing. I know I do as well, but I know many do. So you just started that basically a year ago, which
Mhm.
is kind of amazing that the number of videos you have up there and the following that you have, that's been going really well. So no need to feel that no one wants to watch you. But you know, the
Yeah.
other thing that I think brings people into um, a YouTube channel is personality as well. I think a lot of people watch it, not so much like, yeah, they're going to gain insight and knowledge about things, but I think
Mm.
it's a new type of friendship, isn't it?
It is.
New type of socialization that we've never had before. You know, I've made so many friends through my YouTube channel, and yet those are people I have never actually physically met.
Mhm.
Like you and I, you know,
Mhm.
I mean, we're seeing this, but there is a screen between us. It's not like we're actually in a venue somewhere and meeting for that. But I think that's the benefits of using the technology for this kind of thing, reaching out. Um, so what else can you tell me about your YouTube channel? You said that you've got, of course, quilting on it, but you do videos about your other creative hobbies as well. Um,
Mhm.
do you have any goals for it in the future? How do you see it growing or changing or developing?
In 2022, it was more of making like unboxing the unboxing videos of like the So Sampler boxes from Fat Quarter Shop. Those I got religiously every month, and then I stopped them this year. And I'll get to that in a minute. But those were where I kind of was the meat of my videos. But you can go watch anybody unbox
Sure.
uh, any of the boxes. So I wanted for 2023 to find more for me, more meat in my channel to be able to teach people how to do something. So that's why I really haven't done as many videos this year so far because I've been so used to unboxing. Now I'm having to change how I think because I like being a mentor. I like teaching. I wanted to be a teacher for years when I went to college and then went off on a completely different, college degree. But I love that sharing of knowledge. So just figuring out how I'm going to incorporate that now into my channel. Okay, well, what am I going to share? How am I going to do that? So,
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize that are not YouTube content creators, that when we put up a video, if you do a tutorial, it's a lot of work.
mhm,
I don't do a lot of tutorials on mine. In fact, I don't do any at all, really, not full-fledged. I might show a technique or something, but I don't do a full tutorial because I figure someone has already done this out there
mhm,
on YouTube. And to be honest, it takes a lot of time, and there's editing involved, and I hate editing videos. I probably should edit them a little bit more, but anyways, but yeah, there's a lot of work involved in this. And we, for the most part, most of us are doing this free. It's our
mhm,
own expense, our expense of our time, our equipment, things like that. And we don't really ask people to pay for it or anything like that. I know some people make it a business and they do make money from it, but for the most part, we do it because we have a love of, like you said, you want to teach, you
mhm,
want to show people, help them out. And I think that's the beauty of YouTube content, at least in quilting anyways, is that we all have an urge to help other people out with the problems because someone helped us, at
right.
one point. So we're just paying it forward, I guess. So what were you going to say about the sampler box?
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say too, real quick, the teaching and everything. One of my favorite sayings is, you can't change the whole world, but you can at least try to change the little world that you live in. You can make a difference that way. And so that's one of my main ones. But the So Sampler boxes is I still love them. I think they're great. I think they're a great way to get notions and patterns and fabric. And that's where a lot of my fabric came from. So I didn't want anyone to think that I stopped the So Sampler boxes because that I didn't like them anymore. I still
Right.
do. I just chose to try to shop for my own stash for a while. And if I need a notion, I'll go buy it.
Well, it's like what we were saying earlier too. We tend to grow and develop, and so
Mm,
what we were doing a lot of at one point in time, now we want to go a little bit beyond that or in a different direction because that's basically getting old for us,
mm,
kind of a
mm,
thing. But it doesn't mean that we don't like that. It just,
right.
we're moving on to other things, and I think that's what keeps a YouTube channel alive is constant development and evolution, I guess, if you'd like, for lack of a better word, kind of a thing that changes. Otherwise, it just becomes the same old, same old. And, people get bored. They have the attention span. A lot of people just have the attention span of, oh, squirrel, kind of a thing. And I know exactly what I mean by that because, yeah, there goes one now. So, anything else you'd like to say about your YouTube channel? But,
Um, I don't, not yet. I can't think of anything at the moment.
well, that's okay. Well, it's a great channel, and I will put the link to your channel underneath in the show notes for this interview. So people who don't know you, and I don't know why they don't, can go and check you out. So in general, do you have any challenges or goals for future in terms of projects or things you want to experience?
One of the things that I want to try is and it's part of the block that I'm having a little bit with teaching, is I don't have an overhead
Mm,
equipment yet.
right.
So I have both of these hands to be able to do what I want to do and not be trying to hold a camera. So I haven't gone down that route yet because I haven't really researched to see what could I use as to have like an overhead so that I can actually show, making a half square triangle or making a flying geese. It's kind of hard holding a
It is.
camera with, and sometimes just this viewpoint here, you're not really seeing as much as you would if it was an overhead.
Yeah, exactly. And if you come up with something that really works well, let me know because I'm still on the hunt all the time for that as well.
Mhm,
I've got different setups here in my room, but I'm still constantly tweaking and
mm,
looking for something that's going to make it better. And that's another thing that people who watch YouTube videos don't really understand that there is a lot of equipment involved and a lot of tech. And
mm,
if somebody that's not really tech savvy, this can create a lot of problems for you as well. And it's also expensive,
yeah,
like because you want the best quality. Well, you're going to be paying for it.
mhm.
So any other goals or anything beyond that?
Um, I want to be able to, show more of the teaching, and being able to show different, different blocks or showing some free patterns because then I have the capability to give the dimensions and the measurements and
And
all that.
everything like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Go more and actually the one thing that I haven't done yet is I have not gone live myself. That is my next endeavor to try. I'm a little, nervous about it because I've done, a live with Sean,
Yes.
Saturday mornings and that's gone well, but just doing it me, myself, and I, that's a whole other ball game. And
Yeah.
everybody he does it, they do an amazing job with it, and they just the more repetition the better that they get. So I just need to, as Sean said, I just need to rip that band-aid off and go for it.
He's right. That's exactly what it is. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? You just sort of abruptly end the whole live and cut everybody off, like I did the other day on the live with Stephanie. Uh, so yeah, that was on a Zoom though, not on YouTube with it. But yeah, that was a little mistake. And I mean, I've been doing lives now for a while, but yeah, there's always something more to learn in them. And because essentially when you're doing a live, you're doing something like almost like a show on television, kind of a thing,
Yeah.
like one of those morning talk shows or something like that. But over time, you get more comfortable with it. And you're going to find a lot of people are very, very supportive of you as well. I find on our lives, the people that I've met on there and that are regulars that come to them all the time, they're wonderful people. They're very, very supportive. So that in itself makes you go, well, okay, so they know I make goof up, but they forgive me for that.
Yeah,
They don't expect me to be perfect. Good. That's a good thing. They don't, because they won't
because
be disappointed. Yeah, exactly. So, do you have any advice for anyone getting started in quilting?
don't be afraid, just go for it. Use the tools that you have. Try to everybody will always have advice for you. You can find advice readily, but just do what works for you and ask questions. Go research things on your own. YouTube has, I told Donna in our interview a while back that I was a YouTube graduate. I take that back. I'm still a student, I'm still learning. I haven't technically graduated yet, but you're always will be learning and learning new, techniques and learning about tools. Just keep learning and the famous saying, a finished quilt doesn't have to be perfect. As long as it's finished, that's what matters, unless you're putting it in a quilt show.
Yeah, and that's a whole different ball game there.
Mhm,
But yeah, actually, what you're saying about all of that rings really true. Because when I was a teacher as well, one of the things we had was called lifelong learning. Okay,
mhm.
you never ever stop learning. If you stop learning, your life's going to be boring. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's good. Quilters or people starting in this art form, like you said, just ask questions,
Mhm.
watch YouTube videos, learn what you can learn, move on. When you've learned one thing, mastered it, move on to the next thing. Because there's lots of things that you can move on to. Keeps it interesting. Keeps us from
Yes.
getting, going old too prematurely, kind of a thing, sitting on a couch watching TV all day, waiting to die. And I don't intend to do that. So
Me
we're not.
either.
Oh, before we say goodbye, are there any final words, anything else you'd like to tell us or say? Or
Thank you for this interview today, Stephen. I appreciate it.
you are more than welcome. I really appreciate you spending the time with me for this as well. So I'm going to say goodbye then. And again, thank you. And just stay on the line. And yeah, and I'm sure people check out Martha's Creative Life. The link will be in the show notes below. And say hi to her. Drop a comment in. Let her know that you appreciate what she's doing because I don't think we hear that enough. So once again, have a great day, Martha, and thank you so much for this. Bye for
Thank you. Bye bye.